Hey, Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. So today I would like to share my top 5 recommendations for early career PIs related to the approach that they take to the research funding process. So I'm not going to get into the mechanics of the research funding process. I'm not going to be providing tips on proposals or communicating your research in this video. This video is based off my experience working with clients. So not so much my experience working at a funding organization, which is I think where most of the videos that I've made come from that, or some combination of that and working with clients. But today I really want to share what I've learned from working specifically with early career investigators. And this is important because this relates to the kind of attitude and kind of like high level strategy and expectations that can be very advantageous for an early career investigator. Alternatively, on the other side of that, these are the things that I really do see trip people up. And really importantly, through no fault of their own, that's for sure. Excuse me. This is because we are in a very competitive and demanding environment that you all are working in. So it's hard, right? It's hard to do all of the things that you want to be doing, that you feel, you should be doing. And so I definitely don't want any of these recommendations to come across as implying that you should be doing more, right? They're really set in the spirit of how can you not do more in terms of hours and effort, but how can you strategize how you're spending your time and what you're doing so that you can get the best result from that effort that you do put in. Okay, so these top 5 recommendations here, I've got them coming. Okay, so this one is probably not going to be a surprise. You might not want to hear it. I know it can be annoying, right, to hear this, but let's get this one out of the way. That's why I'm putting it first. Okay, this has to do with time management and getting work done on the proposals well before the deadline so that you have the chance to take advantage of anything from technical review that could be offered through your institution, editing services that could be offered through your institution or that you could find elsewhere, or even editing that and revisions that you might want to do if you have a chance to take even up to a week away from a document and then come back and look to make some improvements there. So really too often the PIs are underestimating the amount of time that goes in to that final push to make the proposal as strong as it can be. And so anything that you can do, and I'm not going to get into a whole time management strategy video here, but anything that you can do to make sure that you're allowing yourself that time, say in the final week up to when you need to have the proposal submitted, to do the extra steps. I don't really think they're extra, but I think a lot of PIs think of them as extra to get your documents into the best shape possible. So this is something that you really want to look at the calendar when you're deciding to start writing, start preparing something. And sometimes you may save yourself some effort if you look realistically at the calendar and assess at the outset, there's really not enough time for me to get this done. So this could save yourself some hassle, and it could also put you in a lot stronger position if you end up writing and you have that time at the end to, I'm not going to say perfect because nothing's ever perfect, or proposals aren't perfect, right? But to do the revisions and get that stronger document. Okay, so number 2, in terms of the approach that you want to be taking to this whole process, is that most likely your expectations for getting in contact with program officers, program managers, funder points of contact, these expectations need to change drastically. So if you're a faculty member at an institution, if you're a PhD scientist or engineer, and more broadly, you're probably very high on the conscientiousness in terms of the different personality traits. And so when emails come in, especially from colleagues, you will respond to them. And we exist, those of us who work in the roles that you do, and roles related, like what I do, which relates to what you do, although I'm not a faculty member. Um, but we have a standard that is much, much higher, or an expectation, I should say, that the response rate to our communications will be relatively high. We have that expectation. We're not really used to being ghosted or just ignored, in a professional capacity, as much as many people from other fields. Now, the people who will be answering your emails at the funding organizations, they do fit that mold as well. Of course, many of them are faculty members who are on a rotation to NSF, for example, or they may be career civil servants at other organizations, or NSF even. So they want to write back too. They really would have that same kind of standard. But the issue is that they get a lot, and I'm not gonna put a number on this, but can be hundreds. But there's a range of emails a day. And they also have responsibilities that take them on travel, of course, and internal responsibilities where they may be in some reviews of some kind, not even panel reviews, but fully internal type events that they're required to be at, required to present at, that are important to their careers, and again, they're required for them. So these things can take them away from their email from a few days to a week at a time. And then, of course, it only gets more backed up, and you understand that. So oftentimes, whether or not you get a response quickly will depend on, just like it would for any email that you need to respond to. If it comes in and it hits the inbox at a moment when they're in their inbox, and they're actually see it come in, it's right there on the screen, and they're able to respond right away, as opposed to something that's getting buried. So the expectation that you would send one email and hear a reply, or that you would even send two emails and get a reply, this is not reasonable. It would be wonderful if that were the case, but that's just not the reality of what we're living in. So we need to look at next steps for following up, perhaps making a phone call. And I'm not going to get into all of the different ways that you can use to get in touch with people here in this video. I cover that elsewhere, but it's the expectation that I believe needs to change, because when the expectation is that you will be hearing back right away, and that doesn't happen, then that leads to more frustration, and that overall just puts people not in the best mindset. So just expect not to hear back the first time. Your expectation will be met. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised, and just keep going. And again, I have other content out there that covers ways to get a hold of people. Okay, so this number 3, the third recommendation here, is managing the expectation that those within your department, school, elsewhere, within your organization, that they may have for you to submit a certain number of proposals a year, or put pressure on you to submit certain proposals, certain types of proposals that you may not want to submit, that you may not want to prepare, that you may not want to submit. Now, this is where my guidance will only go so far, because I'm an expert in university research funding. That's what I help clients with, along with my team. But that program and what we offer does not extend into managing other aspects of your career. For example, how you're mentoring your students, how you're running your lab, putting your promotion package together for tenure, teaching, those kinds of things. Those are all of your other responsibilities. Your strategy towards publishing papers, all of that comes together. And of course, the research funding is a big, big part of that. And that all comes together to be what it needs to be for you to advance in your career towards tenure. So we understand that sometimes you need to do something, as long as it's not unethical or illegal, you don't have a moral objection to it. We've all been in jobs where our supervisor, or a leader of some kind, would recommend or highly encourage us to take a certain action, and it could be in our best interest to go ahead and do that sometimes. So if you have submitted proposals because you are pressured to submit by someone in leadership, don't feel bad about that. It might have been the right decision at that time. That person in leadership can be trying to help you because they actually may be an advocate for you, and they maybe know that they're higher up. It wants to know how many proposals were submitted, or specifically how many proposals were submitted by you, and they know that you're going to be in a better position if they're able to answer at a certain number. So this pressure, it may not be coming with any kind of a bad intent or insensitivity towards your situation, but this pressure is really problematic for PIs who have to, like in anything that you are considering to taking action on, there is the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost being what you are not doing in order to do what you are doing, and there's always going to be an opportunity cost. So the time that you take to put together proposals that you don't even expect to be funded is taking away from something else that you could be doing, including resting and taking care of yourself. And it's also creating more work for many other people. It's creating more work for people in your research office who need to submit it. They may do quite a bit of work on it. They may do kind of the minimum of putting the budget together and helping you submit. But anywhere in between, even if they're doing the minimum to get it submitted, that's still a significant amount of work. So it's taking up those people's time, and it's taking up government's time because they have to process the proposal. And of course, it's taking up the time for the people who do the review. So it's not costless. It's not costing only your time, again, which is valuable, but to get these proposals submitted. So my recommendation is whatever you can do to avoid finding yourself in the situation that you are under this kind of pressure and have to make decisions very quickly. So this could be talking to people in leadership ahead of time to gain an understanding of the expectation that they have regarding how many proposals that you submit. So that's not something that is sprung on you or you're surprised to learn that later in the year. And understanding the why, why they want you to submit that number, what their expectations are related to where you're going to be submitting, the dollar amount you're going to be submitting for. Maybe if they're basing that number off of what some of your colleagues have done, just to get the context of that and try to prevent any kind of pressure building just to hit a certain number target with submissions, because you're going to be much, much better served to find the good fit opportunities and then take the time and spend relatively more time on fewer proposals and fewer opportunities and do a really good job with those. Make sure you have the conversations you need to have before you even start writing the proposal. Put yourself in a much stronger position and avoid racking up just so many declines that, can get very demoralizing. Even if you expect that it's going to be declined, there can be that sliver of hope that maybe something would come through, and then yet again, it's declined. And this is just not a situation that you want to be in, of course, right? Okay, so the number 4. Now, this is something that can really help you if you're able to take advantage of this. And this is to get the support for the research funding process as early as you possibly can. So if you are able to get started as soon as you have access to funds, you're supported at an institution. If you are hired to become an assistant professor, maybe after you have just started your faculty position, before you are teaching, perhaps, if you're fortunate enough to have some teaching release, especially like maybe the first semester. If you can get help, specifically, I'd recommend the Wise Investigator program. But any help that you can get at this stage will be valuable, because the demands on your time are only going to grow more and more and more. And by getting this kind of support, you can put yourself ahead quite a bit in terms of your preparation for the process, and you're getting engaged with the process, right? So that you're not just kind of standing on the outside, watching things happen, but that you just insert yourself into the process. You're having meetings, you're drafting stuff up, you're getting things submitted, possibly even getting a proposal submitted before you even have to start teaching. So that was something that one client of ours was able to do, and that proposal's pending. So again, even if that proposal is declined, the PI is going to be in a much stronger position to perhaps do a resubmission, or think about another type of plan B, because this person is not even 12 months into the position, the assistant professor position. And I really do hope that they get a response on this before they hit the 12-month mark, right? But this is a very, very valuable type of training, support, and engagement that can begin right off the starting line. Thinking that, well, I need to get my lab set up. Yes, you do. But again, the demands on your time will just become more and more and more, and you're still going to have things going on in the lab to install, to deal with, to repair, etc. So it's really not going to get easier, you're not going to find yourself having more time as you go on. Starting this kind of training support as early as possible will save you a lot of frustration down the line. The alternative is going forward on your own and probably not getting the engaging as much with the process, right? We don't want to just submit just for the sake of submitting, but not engaging and therefore not submitting as soon as you hope that you may, because things happen. And also then the risk is building up a lot of those declines. Again, then it can be demoralizing, it's frustrating, and then you feel like you're going into something where you're trying to remediate a situation rather than going in saying, hey, I'm a blank slate, I'm just starting out. What do I need to do here? And if you do find yourself a few years in and having frustration, that's where the vast majority of Wise Investigator clients find themselves. So it's not a problem. We deal with that all the time and we help those people. So it's definitely not like all is lost. You can recover, and that can be done pretty quickly. But if you have the luxury of just starting out and you have startup funds, or even one client who had a very, very low amount of startup funds, almost to the point of really not having startup funds, it was that low, that this person was able to ask a dean who provided support for the program. So if you are brand new, you may not have learned how to be very resourceful in your institution yet in terms of who to ask, how to ask, what kinds of things you can ask for professional development. So try to get yourself ramped up on that too, so you can start taking advantage of any kind of benefits that you can. Also, another client, the one that I mentioned before, was able to sit in on some NSF career training that was offered through the institution, even though that client was not going to be ready to submit for NSF career for some time, just by being able to sit in because they had some extra space in that program. That is a great way to familiarize themselves with NSF career, not stress about it, not draft anything up, not worry about a topic for that yet. But then 3 years down the line, when things are a lot busier, this person is going to be going in with some knowledge about NSF career, not starting from scratch. Okay, so the fifth one is, and maybe this is the most important of all, that's why I have it number 5, okay? It's how you see yourself. So even in this video, I am referring to early career professionals, early career PIs, because that's what they're called, right? That's what you're called. Early career, young investigator, and you are starting your independent research career because the training takes a really long time, right? I think when I was finishing up grad school, I think I was about 29, and I had one child, and I was also married. So Yeah, I would have been just starting as someone who newly was awarded their PhD, but I was really even starting a middle age of my life, maybe at 29 or 30. And that's the case for most of you, too. Most of you have lots of experience with education, sometimes multiple graduate degrees, a lot of life experience, especially if you've moved from somewhere else, possibly far away in the world, and come here and starting a life here. You may have a spouse or have started a family in some way, and you may be looking at becoming a homeowner, right? All of this indicates that you are not really a junior person in the grand scheme of life. And so don't let this early career label um, make prevent you from realizing just how accomplished you are, just how competent you are, just how important the research you want to do is. This is very important in your meetings with funders because an early career person, that quotes early career person, can go into those meetings thinking, wow, I'm just such a junior person. This person is a program manager, they're very, a lot, maybe quite a bit older than I am. And look at this experience they have. They must really know more than I do about the state of the field, or they must have some strategy somewhere, like a technical strategy. I mean, they have strategies for budget and different areas that they're going to put money into, that's for sure. But some kind of technical ideas that are maybe beyond, what my ideas are. That's not true. Okay, your ideas for your research are the best ideas out there. You are at the top of your game, even as an early career person. So start viewing yourself, even if you are going to still qualify for early career awards, and that's great because you want to qualify for those so you can submit to them. So but don't really just think of yourself as a junior person. You're a mature person. You are possibly a parent. You are someone, again, with a wealth of life experience, including in your discipline, including with your research. You have been mentoring and teaching students for a long time. So give yourself credit for that. Stop thinking about yourself as the new kid, the junior person, and start thinking about yourself more accurately, which is that you are already a leader in your field. You're going to grow to become more of a leader in your field, and you have earned support. So go and find that support where you can to give yourself that edge that you deserve and you've earned. Okay, I hope these 5 recommendations have been helpful. If you have any that you think I've forgotten, or you have any comments on these, write a comment or send me a message. I would love to hear from you.